Originally, this was going to be yet another trip up Mount Soapbox, but I decided against it after reading over the comments left in the server rant from last week, because not everybody agreed with me regarding defensive mode being broken, so I thought it would be better suited to do a thoughts video where we would talk about my views and opinions and yours, those of you that left comments. I tried to screenshot everybody's comments, by the way, regarding defensive mode. If I missed somebody, I sincerely apologize. I also apologize in advance if I mispronounce somebody's name. So that's what we're going to do in today's thoughts video, is read over your comments from the rant video last week, specifically about defensive mode, whether or not you're for it or against it, you think it's fine or you think it's broken. You're also welcome to leave it below in the comments section. Let's start things off with Biss Walker. They say that defensive mode works great for them, far from a failure. Jason Reynolds replies, you can be in defensive mode on foot and be hit by a player riding a horse, and then you get kicked out of defensive mode for quote-unquote aggressive behavior while they remain defensive and immediately get bombarded with explosive rounds. I would say it does not do a decent job of protecting friendly player, which is the whole point. And this has happened to me to a lesser extent when I was in defensive mode and I was galloping down the streets of Saint Denis a while back on, I think it was the Xbox One, and another player just happened to run into me and my horse, and it knocked me out of defensive mode. Now, nothing else came of it. There was no aggression, no firefight broke out, but I did find it interesting that the player ran into me and my horse, yet I was the one knocked out of defensive mode. Moving on to Blue Nova Corgi, me and my friend got griefed by a whole posse. One joined in, shot you while they were in defensive mode, locking onto you as well. So we had to leave the entire session. They wouldn't leave us alone. It's ridiculous. I agree entirely. Someone that shot and killed you hadn't even entered the lobby yet. As you spawned in, you were dead. You were like, why? And to answer your question, it's happened to a few other players before where your character has physically already spawned into the lobby while you're still loading in the screen. And unfortunately, it seems like the game likes to put you near other players whenever you're loading into a new session as opposed to away from other players. And I think that's the way it should be, but unfortunately, it's not. Next is Django. The problem with defensive is when someone shoots you, he is in defensive mode too. So he can go offensive and has auto aim on you, but you're still in defensive with free aim. I think they must change this to where somebody shoots me, I have auto aim and not in defensive mode for sure. Kevin replies, and this is how griefers are using defensive mode to grief other players like you. Like I mentioned, not everybody agrees with those of us that feel like defensive mode is broken. Durrell says, I can't say that I've had the same experience on PC regarding the defensive mode. Let's see, in EU, most of the players are blue. Rarely I see a pink or red. Let's see, regarding griefing, I had one person shooting at me randomly while I respawned and killed him twice. I got parlay and was at, I play online for almost 2 months and only on PC. I do all the $500 merch alone and the moonshine deliveries alone, and no one ever tried to attack me. Very strange to hear from you that it's so different on other platforms. And consider yourself lucky, Doral, that you haven't had somebody griefing you even if you're in defensive mode. So count yourself lucky on that. Next is Dreadhead. Let's see, I feel if anyone becomes aggressive towards you while in defensive mode, you should be able to auto-aim while they can't. That will give defensive mode players a real advantage against grifters and will make them think twice before killing and bothering you, and even things out of defensive mode players can't damage other players unless they damage you first. Blam, problem solved. Next, Kevin again. I see, I agree with your video. I also think that the griefers are using defensive mode as a greeting tool. They can still shoot you by free aiming even though they're in defensive mode. I had it happen to me. Moving on to Curse of a Mad King, I have to disagree. My experience with defensive mode is griefers use it to destroy others, not people who use it to get destroyed by, yet broken as F either way. So there's definitely evidence out there that defensive mode is broken from both the defensive player point of view as well as the ability to be abused by griefers out there. Power J chimes in, we don't need different lobby types. Free roam is free roam. I never get people shooting at me while in defensive ever, and if you cannot use PIB on defensive players, that is wrong. Defensive mode works perfectly in my experience. I never had an issue. I'm level 240 on PS4, 233 on PC. I spend a lot of time using defensive mode. All we need is dedicated servers. Valenzuela had this to say: I had it differently, griefers in defensive mode, while some in posse shooting at me and defending myself against them. Some of them go defensive and shoot up close with double shot off shotguns, incendiary slugs. It's incredibly difficult to shoot them because free aim, they barely appear on the map. Even so, they attack me first. They keep the defensive mode somehow, which is BS. I found a lot of posses that do the same. And she's absolutely right. This happened to me and a few others on PC about a week ago. We were doing, I believe, a trader delivery, and a player that happened to be in passive mode was going by, and they opened fire on the wagon. Fortunately, myself and another escort was able to engage them in battle, and they quickly ran off to their camp, which was conveniently nearby. So, unfortunately, yes, griefers are taking advantage of and abusing defensive mode. Let's see, Lady Curie, let's see, if I run over you with a horse, you damage the horse slightly with collision. This then flags you red and them able to kill you. I had a friend who was doing it to some people were spreading nasty rumors about him. When I saw that he was doing it, I asked him how he managed to stay in defensive. It's all about a horse being damaged first. If someone starts doing this to you, blow their horse up, they can't glitch the defensive mode without the horse. Interesting. Wolf has this to say: GB, I wouldn't say defensive mode is a failure. It helped reduce griefing and made things better in that regard. Now, does it stop griefing entirely? No, but it does its job. Thanks to everybody that submitted their points of view on defensive mode, whether you agree that it's broken from your own personal experiences, or you feel like it's fine the way it is. Obviously, I disagree with some of the comments that have been featured in this video, but everyone has a right to their opinion. But I do think that the majority of us feel like that the game should have multiple lobby types, and that defensive mode at the very least requires some improvements and tweaks. Obviously, being abused by griefers, even if you are in defensive mode and you've been playing the game on whatever console you happen to be on, and you have yet to encounter a problem with other griefers, count yourself lucky, because defensive mode is working fine because you're not being griefed or attacked by other players that are also using defensive mode. So for those of you that have yet to be attacked, good for you. I wish that was the case for the majority of the players in the Reddit online community, but unfortunately it seems like griefing cancer is on the rise. With that being said, there are some solutions that Rockstar could consider incorporating regarding defensive mode. Obviously, a lot of us, I believe, like I mentioned, the majority of players in the community, with a few exceptions, want different lobby types. Whether or not Rockstar actually ends up doing that remains to be seen. But the next one would be to make defensive players transparent when they're on the ground, so that another player can't simply just run them over with a horse and knock them out of defensive mode. My next solution would be to disable the Deadeye ability card several ways. If you're in defensive mode, Deadeye ability card automatically disabled. If you're pointing a firearm at another player that happens to be going by in defensive mode, Deadeye ability card disabled as well. Doesn't matter if you are in defensive mode too or in offensive mode, Deadeye ability card would be disabled no matter what. The only way it would not be disabled is if it's offensive mode v offensive mode. So defensive mode v defensive mode, or defensive mode v offensive mode, Deadeye ability card disabled. Along with specific rounds that cause a lot of damage, like for example, incendiary and explosive ammo and slugs. Same premise. If you're in defensive mode, that ammo type should be disabled. You should not be allowed to use it. If you're in offensive mode and you're trying to use that on a defensive mode player or a posse, same thing. The game would not allow you to use incendiary or explosive ammo and slugs on defensive mode players or posses. Doesn't matter if you yourself are in defensive mode or in offensive mode. The only way that you would be allowed to use incendiary and explosive ammo and slugs is offensive v offensive. Not defensive versus offensive or defensive versus defensive. The real question is, does Rockstar even care to go back to defensive mode and tweak it some more? I honestly don't know. It may not even be anywhere near the list of their priorities right now with all the other issues currently in the game. So if it is on the list, it's probably nowhere near the top, but there are solutions here that I've presented that some of you have as well, whether it was featured in the video itself or below in the comment section when it comes to hopefully improving defensive mode, because the way it is right now, the way it's being exploited and abused by griefers against just PvE players that are trying to grind the game, mind their own business, it just proves that defensive mode is broken. And for those of you that disagree, as always, you're welcome to disagree. In all honesty, I believe that your opinion is biased because you've been lucky. Extremely fortunate not to have to have encountered any griefer so far abusing defensive mode. Now, if you were in offensive mode, it'd probably be the same scenario for you. Roaming around the map, mind your own business without any problems at all. But unfortunately, that's not the reality that a lot of the other players in the Red Dead Online community are facing right now. The fact is, griefing is on the rise in Red Dead Online. I have seen it firsthand. I've had viewers and subscribers tell me firsthand that it's happened to them. It doesn't matter if it's on PC, Xbox One, or PS4. It's happening all across the board. Now, there are those of you out there that have been lucky so far and you haven't been griefed yet. And to be honest, I envy you. But obviously, there's a lot of people out there that would disagree. The proof is in the pudding. The comments speak for themselves. And I'm sure there'll be a few of you that also have a few stories to add below in the comment section. Is defensive mode broken? Or is it fine the way it is? Do you think Rockstar needs to consider some of these suggestions by myself and others in order to improve defensive mode? Or should we have different lobby types? Your views, your opinions, your thoughts regarding defensive mode, pros and cons, are most definitely, as always, welcome below in the comments section.